Caleb's stomach growled. It had been quite a while since he had eaten breakfast. On his way home, he stopped at McDonald's and ordered a quarter-pounder with cheese value meal with a large Coke. The smell of the French fries filled the car, and he reached his hand into the bag for a few. He arrived home a few minutes later and went inside. After finishing his dinner, he sat down at his desk and pulled the folded-up paper from his pocket. The words on the paper were written in the same neat script he had seen in Blake's journal. It read,
I never believed in curses until my life became one. It was my greed and my stubbornness that blinded my judgment and sealed my fate. I claimed the forbidden treasure as my own and doomed us all. Captain Robert Blake, April 24, 1743.
1743.
Caleb exclaimed out loud.
That was the same year that Blake went missing.
Caleb sat there in awe for a minute. What had Blake found? What was the curse that befell him and his crew?
The ship's appearance last night has to have something to do with the curse,
he said aloud. He placed the page on his desk near the LED lamp he used to light his workspace. To his surprise, when the light hit the surface of the page, the lines of a map appeared. The map showed the beach where he and Lisa had been last night, as well as a secluded cove on the other side of the bay. It was there that he found the X that must be the location of the treasure.
I wonder if it is still out there.
Caleb's heart began to race at the thought of making such a discovery. Caleb began to formulate a plan to reach the cove. It would require a boat to make it to the other side of the bay. His friend Roger had a boat. Maybe he could convince him to take him there tomorrow. What other things would he need? Something to dig with for sure. A metal detector would be useful too. He got back in his car and drove to a local sporting goods store. He purchased a foldable shovel, a backpack, a flashlight, a metal detector, a GPS tracker, and a new pair of hiking boots. He called Roger and reached his voicemail. He left a message asking if Roger was free to take him across the bay tomorrow morning. Caleb returned home again and packed his supplies into the new backpack. He packed himself a small lunch, consisting of a peanut butter sandwich, an apple, and 2 granola bars. He filled a sports bottle with water. Roger called back around 9:45 while Caleb was drawing out his own version of the map. He agreed to meet Caleb in the morning at the beach and take him across the bay. Caleb was so excited that he could hardly sleep. His mind was a cyclone of thoughts. Caleb lay there until nearly 3 before sleep finally washed over him.
I give you this, boy. You have fortitude, but you seem to be lacking smarts.
The grim voice of Blake growled. The blade still pointed at his chest.
I will say this one last time. Hand over what is mine, and you will be free to walk away. If you don't, no one will ever find your remains.
I told you I don't know what you are talking about.
Caleb pleaded.
I will help you find whatever it is that you seek.
It's a shame, but you have chosen death.
Blake plunged the blade forward. Caleb woke up to his alarm on his phone. He didn't remember setting it, but was thankful that he had. He took a quick shower and dressed in blue jeans and a soft red cotton t-shirt. He gathered his lunch and backpack and tossed them into the back of his car. He made it to the beach with time to spare. Roger would not be there for another 15 minutes or so. He pulled out his phone and started up a video.
This is Caleb Woodward. It is 7:45 a.m. on Sunday morning, September 2nd, 2020. I am here on Easton's Beach in Newport, Rhode Island. Today I hope to make a historic discovery. I will be documenting my adventure throughout the day. Thank you for joining me.
Caleb stopped the video and waited for Roger to arrive. Several minutes later, Roger pulled his boat into the slip and honked the horn signaling Caleb that he was there. Caleb gathered his supplies and walked down the pier towards the boat. He carefully navigated the causeway and boarded the boat. Roger firmly grasped his hand and pulled Caleb in for a hug. Roger slapped him on the shoulder.
Damn, Caleb, it's good to see you,
he said. It had been a few months since Caleb had last seen Roger. The taller man was dressed in khakis with a thick knit polo shirt. He wore gold-rimmed aviator sunglasses and was sporting a newly grown beard.
Thanks for doing this.
Caleb said gratefully.
Sorry again for the short notice.
No worries, man.
Roger nodded.
You know I'd do anything for you.
Caleb placed his bag down and sat in a chair next to Roger's captain chair. Roger sat down and backed his boat out of the slip.
Next stop, Block Island.
He announced as he shifted the boat into high gear and sped across the waves. Roger turned on the radio, and they listened to a classic rock station as they cruised along. It was nearly 10 a.m. when the bluffs on the southern side of the island came into view.
I can get you clothes, but you will have to take the raft ashore.
Roger said, pointing to the shoreline. There was no dock to pull into, so Roger got as close as he could to the shore. He dropped the anchors. Roger helped Caleb into the raft and lowered him down into the water. Caleb primed the outboard motor and set the choke. He pulled the pull cord, and the motor sputtered to life. He moved from choke to run, then twisting the throttle, navigated his way to shore. He beached the raft onto the sand and switched the engine off. Caleb drove a stake deep into the sand and tied the raft up. Slinging his backpack over his shoulders, he made his way up the beach to the base of the cliffs. He pulled his copy of the map from his pocket. Caleb had programmed the coordinates in the GPS unit this morning. The screen lit up, and he followed the map. Soon he would arrive at the spot where the X marked Blake's hidden cache. The clay bluffs rose 100 feet above and cast an imposing shadow across the beach. Caleb was able to find a path that was somewhat easy to navigate. He made it about halfway up, and he decided to rest for a minute to have lunch. He dug into his bag and pulled out the peanut butter sandwich. Caleb finished the sandwich in a few bites and sat there in the sun, listening to the waves lapping at the shore below. The caw of seagulls echoed off the walls of the cliffs. Before moving on, Caleb opened up his phone again and added another entry to his vlog.
Hey guys, it's Caleb again. Here I am on Block Island, halfway up the Mohegan Bluffs. I am super excited to see what I am going to find up here. I just stopped for a quick breather and to have some lunch. Stay tuned in as I get closer to the end of this journey.
Caleb closed the video and slipped his phone back into his backpack. He took one last swig of water and continued to follow the path. It wasn't long before the GPS unit started to beep, signaling that he was near the coordinates he had entered. He looked around for a sign that something might be hidden up here. His eyes scanned along the cliff walls until something caught his attention. A small crevice just wide enough for a man to fit through was hidden behind the overgrown brush. Caleb took a deep breath and, turning his shoulders sideways, inched into the opening. He crept along inch by inch, getting deeper into the bluff. He was a good 10 feet in when the opening widened into a small cavern. Caleb was now able to pull the flashlight from his belt loop. The bright glow of the LED bulbs was enough to bring the cave to life. The walls were damp, and the light made the usually dull clay shimmer. Several spiders scurried off to the safety of the shadows once more. In the center of the room, there were bones of small rodents strewn about a flat rock that seemed out of place. Caleb bent down and examined the rock. It moved slightly. There wasn't enough room to get his finger underneath it. He took the folding shovel out of the backpack and began to loose the dirt around the stone. After a few minutes, he was able to get the point of the blade under the edge of the stone. He pushed down on the handle, and the stone began to lift. Keeping his left hand on the shovel and balancing his weight to keep the rock from slipping back down, he gripped the stone and moved it aside. Caleb showed his light into the hole left by the rock, only to find it empty.
Damn it.
He swore.
Someone beat me to it. It was foolish to think that I would be the first one here.
Dejected Caleb slid the rock back into place and made his way back out of the cave. It was then that he remembered the metal detector. Maybe whoever removed the treasure had dropped a small portion of it along the way. He turned it on and scanned the area around the mouth of the cave. It beeped rhythmically for a few minutes as he moved the head of the unit back and forth. Suddenly, the beeps started to come more rapidly. He cleared away the dirt with his hands and found an old iron ring. There was something etched into the inner band, but Caleb could not make out what it said. He slipped the ring into his pocket and continued to scan the area. A few old bottle caps and a half-rusted can were the only other things he found, so Caleb repacked his bag and made his way back down the hill. When he made it back to the beach, he made one last video entry.
Hey guys, it's Caleb again. Unfortunately, I got some bad news. There was no great discovery today, someone else beat me to it. Oh well, it was still an adventure and not something I usually do. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, ta-ta.
Caleb called Roger to tell him he was on his way back to the boat. After loading his things back onto the raft, he pushed it back out into the water and fired up the motor. In no time, he was back aboard the ship, and they were raising anchor for the return trip to Newport.
Did you find what you were looking for?
Roger asked hopefully.
Yes and no.
Caleb said, taking a sip of his water.
I found where something should have been, but someone got there first.
Bummer, man. Well, at least we got a few hours left to hang together.
Roger shrugged. He engaged the engine, and they made their way back to the mainland. By the time they got back to Newport, it was late afternoon.
Hey man, it was great seeing you. We should do this again sometime.
Roger said as Caleb disembarked the boat.
Totally.
Caleb said,
Thanks again for taking me out there, Raj, even if it was a total bust.
Caleb waved, and Roger pulled the boat back out into the harbor. Caleb got into his car and drove home. He needed another shower and wondered if Lisa would meet up with him for dinner.